Okay, here's the situation. Hashtags curries are coming. Yes. So we are back. Lawan Curry here.
Tara Curry here.
And so we wanted to touch base on the last blog. We talked a little bit about assumptions and the assumptions that you had prior to being married and what happened to them. Did they actually, blossom into something that you thought was good, or did they deteriorate and wither? And so we want to lead by example. So I'm going to talk about an assumption that I had prior to getting married, which was a financial assumption. Thinking that as a man, that I'm going to be able to take care of things financially. And my wife, she makes more money than I do. So right off the jump, that was crushed. I'm also not a great saver. And I realized that. And so my wife takes on the role of making sure that the bills are paid and the rent and stuff like that. And once again, I thought that was my role, and I was feeling some type of way. And earlier on in the relationship, in the marriage, and it affected my self-esteem a little bit, because it was like a little balloon that I thought I had, that I could, perform for the family, and it was like a little pin was in it, and it was like it deflated slowly. So that was my assumption. Yeah, that's
Wow. Yeah. I think one of my marriage expectations or assumptions was, it was actually something that he said to me early in the marriage, and even like when we were dating right before we got married, that we should be able to tell each other everything, and that's what he wanted. He wanted us to just, everything should be said, and my husband does not hold back. Right, when there's something is on his mind, he speaks his mind, and so there was an expectation or an assumption that we would share everything with each other. And I realized that I couldn't share everything with him, because we're just not supposed to give each other everything. Some things are meant to be held for another time, right? There's timing. It's timing with some things. And honestly, some things we can't hold. There could be something of his that I can't hold that. And there were things of mine that he couldn't hold, because his response wouldn't be the response that I wanted. Or he would even say like, yeah, I don't know what to do with that. Right? And so that became an assumption or an expectation that started to kind of hurt my feelings. Right? And I was making it personal, but had to eventually realize that was just something that he couldn't hold of mine, and that's okay. Right?
Yeah, and I think that a part of that was, you have to go through trial and error to realize what you can hold, what you can't, because everybody has their own luggage, so to speak. And that was interesting, because it helped us grow, because now, going 3 years into our relationship, I don't want to know everything. I want to know what's necessary. I want to know what's pertinent. I want to know, if she has something that she needs to get off her chest. And now she'll preface it with, I was just thinking to myself, or I had this thought, but it's not anything I have to respond to. So I think a piece of that was, as a husband, knowing and understanding through time when to respond, and when not to respond.
Yeah. Good. That's good.
I think another assumption, I wanted to speak to this, because we talked about our needs of spices in our last episode, and we talked about our physical needs, and we talked about the fact that both women and men will easily identify sex with a physical need. And I think that there's an expectation in marriage also, that sex is going to be so prevalent. I mean, I think for me, it was thinking that, I have access to this woman 24/7. So we're going to be getting jiggy, so to speak. And with our lives, our children, grandchildren, that, we couldn't keep that up. We couldn't keep up what I thought anyway in my heart, that we were gonna, be making love 3 or 4 nights out of the week, and because of our schedules, that didn't happen, and I was feeling some type of way, thinking that and if I don't communicate this, it's going to be an issue with my wife, right? If I don't tell her, like, am I pleasing you? And am I pleasing you enough? Are we being intimate enough throughout the week? Because we can be very busy, and I wanted to touch base with you guys because there can be a hidden assumption there for your physical needs, right? In part by your spouse and helping you out with that particular physical need in terms of sex, and I don't want people to be in a sexual frustration because of an assumption, right? Thinking that, I didn't please my wife enough this week, and now you're sexually frustrated, and things are very sensitive, and you guys are more impatient with each other, and causing each other anxiety and strain when you don't need to be. So
Right, and sometimes it's not the sexual thing; it's the intimacy, it's the wanting to be touched, wanting to be hugged, wanting to spend close time together, right? So, as my husband said, you got to communicate it. You have to talk about it. This is what I wanted, and I realized that it's not happening the way I thought.
yeah,
I think that's one thing that we're learning. We have lots of growing pains, right, and learning curves that we go through, and I love that we can talk about the growing pain that we're going through, and we can talk about, okay, we're learning this about us because we've never gone through this. Something I said to Lawan at the very beginning, this marriage place that we're in, we've never been here before. So we don't know how to do this. Men, they have the answers to everything. They, tunnel vision, I know what to do. This is what I've always done. This is how I'm going to deal with it. But we have never been here before. So we have to figure this out one step at a time. And you don't have all the answers, and you don't know what's coming next because we've never been here before.
and so men, we're solution based. I mean, right hemisphere brain thinking. We want to solve the problem, right? And not all problems can be solved right away.
Right.
Some problems need time. That's a beautiful thing about marriage, and I say that to my wife every once in a while, is that we can afford a mistake. The best thing about what we do is we have tomorrow.
Yeah.
But when it comes to having each other, so it's okay to make that mistake. It's okay to even have an assumption, but make sure you communicate it.
Yeah.
Don't let it, like the song,
Don't let it sit.
you don't have to let it linger, right? You don't. So make sure you communicate that. And I think that me and my wife, as we go through this, we are working on our communication and thickening it so that it can't be broken, so that it can't be played with, so that the devil can't see a crack in it and try to sprinkle some devil juice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a churn for you.
Yeah. I will lastly say that another assumption that I had is that I was single prior to this, single mom prior to being married, and single for a while.
We hope that most people are single before they get married. I'm just saying.
And single for a while, right? Before I got married, so I had gotten used to my own space, my own company, right? Doing things when I wanted to, and learning when I got married that I had to share that, right? And that was an adjustment. So I think I came into the marriage with the assumption that I was still going to have my me time. I was still going to have my space. And we don't have extra rooms for us to go into, right? There's no man cave. There's no she shed in the back, right? So that was a major adjustment for me. And it was an assumption on his end that when I wanted to be alone, it meant that I didn't want to be with him.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And I'm a quiet person. I'm a thinker. I work on the computer a lot. I'm reading. I'm in my Bible. I'm doing different things by myself. And he even said to me one day that he had to learn to understand that my quiet didn't mean I was mad at him, right? It's just, that's my place that I was in before. So that assumption, I had to really work through that. I still don't get the time that I'm used to, but I'm learning. I'm learning how to allow him to be in my space, right? When I might want to be in my quiet time, and not get it would almost feel like an agitation, because it's that control piece of me that I didn't have control over anymore. And so I definitely had to learn to adjust to that. I love his company. I love when he comes and lays across the bed when I'm sitting in the room on the computer. But that was definitely an assumption I had that, and there are still parts of me that are still working through that.
And so I think that's important. As we come to a close, and this is what I always preach when I talk to and teach fathers, that we do have to create our own solitude. We do have to create our own space where we can have a small individual comfort zone. And that's important.
Absolutely.
So we want to thank you guys for being a part of our blog. Make sure to like and subscribe because the Currys are coming.
Yeah, we're coming for your marriage. We're coming for your parenting. We're coming for your relationships. And we're coming for your soul care.
Soul care.
Because we want to make sure that God is the center of all of it. And that we're taking care of each other. So be good to yourself.
Peace.